Okay, get this. Picture a young man just vanishes. No trace.
Poof.
Gone. Yeah. And then years later, his remains are found in the most bizarre place, like something out of a horror movie.
I'm intrigued.
A chimney.
Wow, that's a crazy discovery.
That's the mystery we're diving into today, the case of Joshua Maddox.
It's one of those cases, just grabs you. So many twists and turns, unanswered questions. Joshua was 18, lived in Woodland Park, Colorado.
Beautiful area, right?
Absolutely. Stunning scenery. He was into nature, music, writing.
Creative type.
Exactly. And then, May 2008, gone, just like that.
Vanished. Told his sister he was going for a walk, something he did a lot, and that's the last anyone saw him.
It's like he walked into thin air. His family, the whole community, searched everywhere. Nothing. For years.
Can you imagine the not knowing? And just heartbreaking.
Absolutely. The family, the friends, the waiting, the wondering.
And then, 7 years later, his remains turn up. Not in the wilderness, not in some remote location.
Yep.
But in an abandoned cabin.
Right there in town.
2 blocks from his home.
2 blocks.
Hidden inside a chimney.
Makes you wonder, how did nobody find him sooner?
It's like something out of a detective novel. You're tearing down this old chimney, expecting, dricks, dust.
Yeah, the usual stuff.
And boom, you find a mummified body.
I can't even imagine. Shocking, to say the least.
So many questions, right? How did he get in there? Was he alive when he went in? Did someone put him there?
It's a real head-scratcher.
Initially, the investigation seemed pretty straightforward. A tragic accident. Coroner ruled it accidental death.
Thinking he climbed down the chimney, got stuck, and hypothermia set in.
Makes sense, right? Cold climate, abandoned cabin. But then there were these odd details, things that didn't quite fit.
The details, that's where things get interesting.
Like his clothes, they were found inside the cabin, neatly folded.
Folded? That's strange.
Right. If he was seeking shelter, wouldn't you expect them to be scattered maybe on his body?
You'd think so.
And then there's the rebar. The cabin owner, Chuck Murphy, he told investigators he put this heavy-gauge wire mesh at the top of the chimney years before.
To keep animals out, makes sense.
Exactly. But that means Joshua couldn't have climbed down from the top.
Ah, so that blocks that theory. So how did he get in there?
Exactly. Was there another entrance? Maybe the rebar was put in after he was already inside. It's baffling.
It is. It's like a puzzle with missing pieces.
Totally. And there's more. Another weird detail. A breakfast bar.
A breakfast bar, like a piece of furniture.
Yeah, it had been moved, blocking the fireplace opening inside the cabin.
Like someone was hiding the chimney.
Almost. Makes you wonder if someone's trying to conceal something or maybe keep someone from getting in or out of the chimney. It's just that creepy.
Yeah, it definitely adds a layer of unsettling mystery to the whole thing.
And the way they found his body, it was strange too. Fetal position, legs above his head, disjointed from the torso.
Disjointed. Oh, wow.
It makes you wonder, could he have been placed in there head first?
That's disturbing.
It's hard to reconcile with the image of a young man just seeking shelter. It's just too strange.
Yeah, it just doesn't add up. Too many questions.
And because of those inconsistencies, the coroner eventually changed the cause of death to undetermined.
Undetermined. So they're saying they don't really know.
Right, which just adds another layer of intrigue to this whole thing.
And that's where the mystery truly begins.
It's like we've stepped into a mystery novel with this case. You've got the locked room element, only it's the chimney instead of a room. And the whispers, the rumors, always make a case even more intriguing.
The whispers are always a part of these kinds of stories, aren't they? They add that layer of, well, almost like folklore. Urban legend mixed with real life.
So what kind of whispers were swirling around this case?
Oh, the police got a ton of anonymous tips, phone calls, people saying they knew this guy or that guy who bragged about killing Joshua.
Bragged? Wow.
Yeah, but it was never anything concrete, no formal reports, just these little threads of information hinting at something darker going on.
Did any of those threads lead anywhere?
Well, one name popped up over and over, Andy.
Andy. Okay, so we're not talking about John Doe here. We have an actual name.
We do. Andrew Richard Newman. And Andy's story, well, it really adds a whole other dimension to this case.
What's the story with Andy then? Was he just some troubled kid or was there something more to it?
Andy had a bit of a rough past. Arrests for assault, burglary. He was even linked to a pretty serious case in New Mexico, a fatal stabbing.
A fatal stabbing.
Yeah, and the victim was a disabled man and his caretaker. Some of the details, they're eerily similar to what we see in Joshua's case.
So we've got this guy, Andy. History of violence, allegedly knew Joshua, and there are rumors that he bragged about, well, about Joshua's death. Did the police ever look into Andy?
And that's the frustrating part. Despite all the whispers, all the potential connections, there's no record of the police ever officially questioning Andy about Joshua.
No record.
Yeah.
Really? It's like having a giant flashing neon sign pointing to a potential suspect, and they just ignored it.
It's a bit of a head-scratcher. You'd think with a case this baffling, they'd follow every lead, especially one with this much smoke around it.
It's almost like a key piece of the puzzle was just left sitting there. Maybe if they had investigated Andy, they could have confirmed or denied those rumors. But leaving that stone unturned, well, it just fuels the speculation.
Absolutely. It leaves us wondering if we're missing a crucial part of the story.
And then you have the whole internet sleuthing aspect.
Yeah.
I mean, you can't talk about mysteries these days without mentioning the online world, right?
Sure, for sure. And this case definitely made its way onto the internet. There was this Reddit post that caught a lot of attention. It came out sometime after Joshua's body was found.
What was in the Reddit post?
The person claimed they went to high school with Andy and also knew Joshua. They were really upset that the police didn't seem interested in Andy as a suspect. The post pointed out all the inconsistencies in the accidental death, ruling the rebar, the clothes, everything.
So this person was basically echoing what a lot of people were thinking. Too many things just didn't add up.
No. Exactly. And they kept bringing up those rumors about Andy bragging about putting Josh in a hole. They were convinced it wasn't an accident and that Andy had something to do with it.
I get it. It's easy to get swept up in these alternative theories, especially when there are so many unanswered questions. But we have to be cautious, right? We can't jump to conclusions without solid evidence.
Absolutely. We have to be careful not to let speculation cloud our judgment. As compelling as those whispers and rumors may be, we need concrete proof to link Andy to Joshua's death.
So we're left with this unsettling scenario. A young man vanishes, turns up years later in the most unexpected place, and there's this other figure, a troubled past, possible connection to the victim, but never properly investigated. It's the kind of case that sparks endless debate.
And that's what makes this story so fascinating, so frustrating, and ultimately, so unsettling. It's a stark reminder that sometimes, even with all the pieces laid out before us, the truth remains elusive.
It's like we're trying to solve a puzzle with some pieces missing. We have these clues, the rebar, the folded clothes, the rumors about Andy, but they don't quite fit together. How did Joshua get into that chimney? It just doesn't make sense.
The rebar is a big one, right? If he couldn't get in from the top, how did he get in there? Some people say maybe he went in from the bottom, but that seems even more difficult and strange, doesn't it?
And the clothes, folded so neatly, it just feels off, like someone wanted it to look that way. If he was just trying to get out of the cold, you'd think his clothes would be everywhere, wouldn't you?
Yeah, you'd expect them to be scattered, maybe even ripped or torn if he was struggling. It's a strange detail for sure.
There is this thing called paradoxical undressing, right?
Right, that happens sometimes with hypothermia.
The person gets confused, starts taking off their clothes even though they're freezing.
Yeah, it's a weird phenomenon, but it does happen.
Could that explain it?
Maybe, but even then, it doesn't explain the neat folding. It's like someone took the time to arrange them.
And then you have Andy. He always seems to be lurking in the background of this case. We know he had a history of violence, and there were those rumors about him, well, bragging about Joshua's death. It's hard to ignore that.
It's definitely something to consider, but we have to be cautious. We can't let speculation run wild, you know. We need solid evidence to connect Andy to Joshua's death, and so far, that's missing.
Right, it's a tough balance. We want answers, but we also have to stick to the facts. We can't just fill in the blanks with guesses and assumptions.
Exactly, and that's what makes this case so frustrating. There are all these loose ends, and we may never know for sure what really happened.
It makes you wonder if things could have been different. What if the police had looked into Andy more closely? Maybe they could have cleared his name or found something that connected him to the case.
It's possible, but we can't change the past. All we can do is look at the information we have and try to make sense of it.
And sometimes that's not enough, is it? Sometimes the answers just aren't there.
It's true. Some mysteries just stay mysteries. But that doesn't mean we should stop searching for the truth.
So we come to the end of this deep dive, and we're left with more questions than answers. What do you think happened to Joshua Maddox? Was it a tragic accident, or did something more sinister happen in that abandoned cabin?
Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. We always appreciate hearing different perspectives and theories.
And if you're intrigued by mysteries like this one, make sure to like this video and subscribe to our channel. We have a lot more deep dives coming up.
Until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep that curiosity alive.
Stay curious, everyone.